Warning: this podcast may contain graphic violence, sexual themes, and bad language. If our language offends you, we apologize, but we do not give a fuck. Be mindful of your kids listening.
The Evil Never Dies podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Evil Never Dies podcast. I'm your host this week, Carl Todd. Now, a lot of you might be surprised that I'm here because if you haven't heard, I just had emergency surgery on Saturday. Actually, after we filmed or taped the show Friday night, my tummy had been hurting me, and I went to bed, woke up the next day, and I was in massive pain. So my wife told me to go to the ER. I found out it was the appendix. And I'm talking about emergency surgery. I was in surgery within 2 or 3 hours after getting to the ER. So it was crazy. I'm feeling better, but I'm on complete restrictions. I can't go to work, but I can do a podcast for you. So this week, as I've promised, I'm going to continue my quest to do Kiss albums. And this week, we're going to do Rock and Roll Over. Before we start, I just wanted to say that I think I've mentioned before that Rock and Roll Over might be my favorite cover art of Kiss and maybe of any album out there. It's, I didn't pull the CD. I'm sorry. You can look it up on Google if you want to look at it. Very unique cover because the makeup is different. The Catman looks really evil in it, so it's different makeup. They're all in a circle, and the Kiss logo circles around it. Love the album. We'll talk about that a little bit more, and I'll tell you who actually made or drew it, I should say. I'm still a little out of it, folks, but we're going to get through this really well. So Rock and Roll Over was released November 11th in 1976. It was recorded September through October of 1976 at the Star Theater in New York. So why were they at the Star Theater? Well, they were trying to recapture the rawness the band was missing on Destroyer. Of course, Destroyer was their big, huge breakthrough studio album, but it was also very produced. So they wanted to get back to the basics, so they brought back Eddie Kramer, who actually produced the Alive albums. They camped out at the Star Theater, and the production might be a little iffy, but I think it works. I think it was the perfect album to follow Destroyer because they couldn't really top that as far as, it would have just been a mess if they'd have tried to done another overproduced piece of work. So we get Rock and Roll Over. Note, the band actually took a break when they was recorded and filmed the Paul Lynde Halloween special, and that actually propelled Kiss even higher. So I think at this point, they might have been at their commercial height period. So again, the album was released on November the 11th of 1976. And, okay, the artwork. It's not just me. A lot of people find it to be maybe some of their best album cover work of the entire Kiss history, as we call it. It was done by an artist named Michael Dorr, and he would actually do Sonic Boom in 2009 for the band. So let's get into the album. Or should we do production first? Yeah, let's go over that. So the producer was Eddie Kramer, once again, who did the Alive albums. Length is 32 minutes, 38 seconds, and it was Casablanca Records, their longtime label. Again, Michael Dorr did the cover and just a little background on him. He did a lot of stuff. I mean, he was famous for New York Knicks pictures, baseball pictures, and he even designed the American Eagle postage stamp for the U.S. Post Office. So he had quite a career himself. So let's go over the track listing. Side A, first song, I Want You, written by Paul Stanley and lead vocals by Paul Stanley. That song's 3 minutes and 4 seconds. So this was sort of, to me, the highlight of the album. It's a rocking song. It starts out, with the acoustic, and it takes off. So I think actually Paul played the first guitar solo and Ace played the second. So that's a bit of a change because Paul didn't do a lot of solos, at this stage. So he had wrote the song in England while they were on tour. So he said he was at the sound check and the song came to him. So that's my highlight. That's the gem of the album. Track 2, Take Me, written by Paul Stanley and Sean DeLay, whoever the hell he is. I don't know. It's 2 minutes and 56 seconds. It's a pretty quick little song. Yeah, I'm using notes tonight. I know I say I don't, but tonight I am. So I guess Sean actually worked with Bill Alcon, their manager, and was responsible for a lot of the stage shows that Kiss did. So this is a pretty rocking song. Ace knows another great solo in it. So rocking song, I like it. Good stuff. Track 3, Calling Dr. Love. Gene Simmons wrote it and performed by Gene. It's 3 minutes and 44 seconds. This is one of Gene's highlights. It stayed in the concert set list for quite a number of years. I guess the song originally was called Bad Bad Lovin', and you can hear some of that on the vault that Gene put out if you're lucky enough to have one. I am not. My friend Video Bob has too. So it's a really heavy song, and Gene's very menacing on the song. Give this song probably the second best song on the album. I like it. Track 4 was called Ladies Room, and it was also written by Gene Simmons and performed by Gene Simmons. Yeah, that seems to be a trend with those guys. If they write the song, they're usually going to sing it. Usually, not always. 3 minutes and 27 seconds. Yeah, this song's more filler, I think. It's kind of just whatever. Peter does have a cowbell in the chorus, which was kind of fun. The bridge is better than the lyrics, really. So, and there's a funny note for you. Peter Criss actually played the drums in the bathroom for this, so that was kind of funny. And Gene plays rhythm guitar on the song, so a little bit different for Kiss. It's not your typical Kiss. Track 5, last side of the album of side A, was Baby Driver, which was written by Peter Criss and Sean Pendage. It's a Peter song, not literally. I said that wrong. So Baby Driver's, again, it's a pretty damn good song. This whole album is really good. It's got a good groove. Peter really shines on the drums as well as singing on this one. It's very raw, but that's Peter's voice. I would prefer to hear this over Beth as far as a Peter Criss song. I thought he did a really good job on it. So we go to side B, Love 'Em and Leave 'Em, written by Gene, performed by Gene, 3 minutes and 47 seconds. So Love 'Em and Leave 'Em is another song that I typically think being a Gene song. It might not be his best, but it's got a catchy chorus. It's pretty simple and to the point. It's got a good Ace solo. So I like Love It and Leave 'Em. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. Track 7 was called Mr. Speed, written by Paul and Mr. Sean Delaney again, the choreographer guy. 3 minutes and 18 seconds on this one. It isn't a classic. Sorry, I had to get my water, folks. My throat's really kind of dried out. So I'm sorry if I sound awful. It rocks out and Paul sounds good. Good vocals. The rhythm section really kicks it with Gene and Peter. They really pop on that one. So, it's not their best, but it's a damn good song. Where are we at? We're at track number 8, which is called See You in My Dreams, which was a Gene song. 2 minutes and 34 seconds. Very fast song. This song's pretty unmemorable to me. I don't really think a lot of it when I hear this album. I just sort of fast forward. There are different versions. It was also released on the Vault. I think this version's probably better than his solo album. I guess he recorded it twice. It's got the band in the background. You got Ace's solos. So yeah, definitely better than the other versions he did. Number 9, track 9, Hard Luck Woman. Now written by Paul Stanley, but performed by Peter Criss. So there we go. I said not always. I think they gave this song to Peter to try to make another Beth. And it wasn't a commercial hit like Beth, but it's a classic. It was actually written by Paul. I think it was for Rod Stewart. I can't confirm that, but I think he wrote it for Rod Stewart. But Paul got it. Paul gave it to Peter, and Peter did a damn good job on it. I think it might be Peter Criss's best song that he ever sung, because his voice just fits. Very emotional. Probably one of the better songs on the album. This is a good album, so it's hard to top. And the last song is track 10. It was called Making Love. That was written by Paul Stanley and the cinematographer or choreographer or whatever grapher, Delaney again, and sung by Paul. It's 3 minutes and 14 seconds, and it's the final song on the album. It's pretty energetic and pretty rocking. Hey, Halloween came to join me. Hi, Halloween. It's just your typical Paul Stanley, cocky, ballsy little song. It's not very memorable, but hey, Ace has a good solo. Now, of note, Ace did not write a single song on Rock and Roll Over, so that's a little different. So my overview, there's a couple fillers on the album, but this is a good album. I Want You, Calling Dr. Love, and Hard Luck Woman are just classics. And Love 'Em and Leave 'Em is another song that I would consider in the best of Kiss spirits. Let's see. Let's talk about the charts. The album debuted at number 11 on the Billboard 200, and it went platinum. So they released Hard Luck Woman as a single, and it actually went to 15 on the Billboard pop charts. So that's actually pretty good. Calling Dr. Love was released as a single, and it actually went to 16 on the pop chart. So they had 2 top 20 hits. So again, after coming from Destroyer, which was the big mega studio album, Rock and Roll Over did pretty damn good. It gets good ratings from people. It doesn't get trashed. So let's look a little bit about the tour on Rock and Roll Over. So the tour began in November of 1978. shortly after the release of the album, and it ended in April of 1977. They actually performed at Madison Square Garden for the very first time, and that was huge for Kiss because that was where Gene always wanted to be, and Paul. So they finally got there. Sammy Hagar opened the show that night, so that's a little bit of trivia for you. It was also the first tour that Kiss performed in Japan on. So, and it's also where Ace Frehley got electrocuted on the stage and resumed the show, which, of course, he would write Shock Me about. Sorry, I have to drink water. This was the first tour that Beth was actually performed. And it was sung by Peter, of course, to an instrumental track from Destroyer. So it wasn't actually, it's just like now, they just played the backgrounds and they sing it. Now it's Eric Singer, of course. So typical set list. They had all the hits in there: Detroit Rock City, Let Me Go, Rock and Roll, Firehouse, Cold Gin. They closed the show with Black Diamond. So tour was good. Had a bunch of opening acts. Bob Seger actually opened for a couple, and Uriah Heep and Hagar, and the Dictators, which would actually feature Ross the Boss, who would become the guitar player for Manowar several years later. So I would give Rock and Roll Over about 4 stars. I think it's one of their stronger 70s albums. It's not just the album cover. I think the rawness of the production, not raw like some of the earlier ones, but it felt live. They actually captured that live feel, and it's not overproduced like Destroyer, which may or may not be a bad thing. So that's my take on Rock and Roll Over. I suggest that if you're a Kiss fan, you already know it's great. If you're not, give it a listen. And I'm going to end it for the week. I know I probably didn't do a very good job, but I guess 2 days after surgery, what can you expect? So check us out on our social media pages, YouTube, Audio Boom, leave an Apple review, Facebook group. You can find me at Facebook, just Carl Todd. Look me up. I'm there. And that's all we got for this week. Stay evil, folks, and we will talk to you soon.